Welcome in to Coffee and Football. It's Monday morning. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Jerry Hamilton and CJ Vogel, sitting in for Blake Monroe this morning. Blake a little under the weather, presented by Longhorn Wealth Management Group and John Donovan. All week this week, our college football playoff coverage brought to you by duckcamp.com as well. Thank you to John Donovan, entering his third year of sponsorship now with us at On Texas Football. Hey, Jerry and CJ, a lot of stuff going on in Longhorn land, of course. Most of the focus right now on Texas and the college football playoffs. Longhorns play against Ohio State on Friday evening, at AT&T Stadium. But last night, Jerry, the Longhorns picked up a big piece of the recruiting puzzle in Travis Shaw, a defensive tackle out of North Carolina. Let's talk a little bit about that because he becomes the fourth verbal pledge in this portal recruiting class for the Longhorns. Yeah, so Travis Shaw will be a quality rotational player on the defensive front for Texas. Texas will play him more over the ball in the shade and the tilt than they will at a 3. But a guy that came out of high school as a 5-star prospect out at Grimsley High in Greensboro, North Carolina, picked North Carolina over Georgia and Alabama at the time. That was a huge recruiting win for Mack Brown at North Carolina at the time. He had quickness, but he's never been a disruptive player, pass rusher. He's more of a over-the-ball guy that you can play off. You can play him at the tilt. You can play him over the guard. But he's a key piece to this Texas team because, Texas is going to go after big body guys that can play the run. And Cole Brevard, Travis Shaw are those guys. And now you have, with Sadir Mitchell leaving, now you have a rotation over the ball. You have Cole Brevard, you have Travis Shaw. You have two guys that have played a lot of college football that can play over the ball for you, CJ and Bobby. So it's a big addition. People have asked, is he going to start? Is he not going to start? He wasn't a starter for North Carolina. He was a key piece for North Carolina. And I think you'll see that at Texas as well. CJ, I'm looking at his stats over the years. You said you wrote on Texas Football last night, 300-plus snaps from Travis Shaw this year. Tell a little bit, folks, about where he exactly lined up in those snaps, et cetera.
Yeah, 337 snaps in 2024. 280 of them came over the guard. So whether it be in that B gap or right over the shade of the guard in the center, to what Jerry was saying earlier, they kind of bounced him around. He has about 30 snaps outside over the tackle as well. So you could see kind of the versatility. Texas used some of that with Alfred Collins. They've used it in the past with Devondre Sweat, kind of moving him around from place to place on the defensive line as well. Shaw, again, not necessarily going to be a big-time pass rush guy. That's never been the forte of his game. But where you do see a lot of his success is with the run stops, right? 20 tackles this year, 15 run stops accredited by PFF. And I know that's kind of a subjective statistic, but it speaks to where his value is, and that's in that run game, clogging lanes. I put up 2 tweets last night, actually, that made its way over to On Texas Football of him with kind of exemplifying that first step, that BGO that we talk about. Really impressive. You see why the 5-star was there in high school, and that's the athleticism of carrying that weight. Got to just find more consistency. And with Kenny Baker and kind of his, knowledge of pass rush and how we've seen Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton find that consistency, if there's hope that he finds that in the pass game, then you'll have a really talented, athletic player at 330 pounds.
I would say to add to that, I think what Texas is hoping, but besides the role he will play on this Texas team, is they get that final year of college football explosion out of him that they did from Alfred Collins and Vernon, right? That they can pull out of him maybe what was missing a little bit at North Carolina, because his upside is higher than the player that we've seen in 3 years of college football. He didn't have a sack in 3 years. With his athletic ability, that's kind of surprising. He's more of a run-stopping player, that he hasn't been a little more disruptive. So that's going to be the hope for Texas. Here's the player. He's going to be really good rotational player, stopping the run. Can we get that next little piece out of him to be a disruptive player as well? And if they can, then you really have something, because the guy's extremely talented. I will add this. I texted with someone on the North Carolina staff this morning, the former North Carolina staff this morning. Have some friends over there. They said that his production thus far had been limited by two factors: his health, which he struggled with his first two seasons at North Carolina, and his weight. Had a problem getting his weight under control. They said both of those situations have been better this year. So he could be looking for a breakout year in 2025. Something to keep in mind there, but that's directly from a former member of that staff. All right, guys, got some other things we need to talk about as well, including Steve Sarkeesian in the NFL. Of course, we need to talk about Ohio State and the Buckeyes coming to Texas this week as well, as some other things on and on right now, really, for the Longhorns, including Will Stone battling Bert Auburn potentially for the kicker role heading into this weekend. But before we do that, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, John Donovan, President, Longhorn Wealth Management Group, who is now starting his third year as our sponsor of Monday's Coffee and Football. John's a proud Texas Ex's Life member whose wife and siblings are all UT grads. This UT family passion is what led John to brand his firm, Longhorn Wealth Management Group, and dedicate it to providing investment, retirement, insurance, and estate planning services and solutions to Longhorn families and friends across the nation for more than 30 years. Like most of you, John was stressed out by the Longhorns' double overtime victory over Arizona State. So John would like to try to reduce your stress so you can experience the perplexity and complexity of your own wealth management needs by offering you a free 90-minute private consultation to show you how a certified financial planner like John can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and secure your legacy. Either call John and his team at Longhorn Wealth, 972-707-4900, or go online, longhornwealth.net, to schedule your free 90-minute private consultation today. John wants to wish all OTF fans a happy new year and hook 'em. He'll be in Arlington this week, obviously. Guys, Sark in the NFL got some, I would say, some runway because of comments made by ESPN's Adam Schefter early Sunday morning. We've had some feedback on that, checked in with some sources, etc. Jerry, you just feel like this is a red herring as the Longhorns prepare for the national semifinals?
When Jimmy Sexton sees one of his coaches in the college football playoff, baby, show me the money. I mean, Jimmy Sexton agent, when he sees his guys in the playoff, baby, that's like, he's just sitting there. Will Sark coach in the NFL one day? I believe he will. That's just my personal opinion. We talked about it a little bit last night. When that would be, I don't know. I'm not sitting here saying if Texas wins a national championship this year, he's leaving. My personal opinion is he'll see the Arch Manning years through at Texas. That's my personal opinion, and just nothing. But look, only Steve Sarkeesian truly knows when he's sitting at home and he really assesses his goals as a football coach. I'm not one of those people that says, "Oh, he's been in the NFL." Nick Saban's his mentor, and Pete Carroll had success in the NFL, right? And that's his number one mentor, right? Yep. So all these guys, especially the offensive guys, they aspire to coach in the NFL eventually at some point in time. But I say this for Sark is when that time comes for him, he's not going into a situation with bad quarterback play. He has good quarterback play in Austin. And he's got Arch Manning on the way. So I'd be personally very surprised if he did anything until the Arch era is over. But Jimmy Sexton, he loves the thought and the talk about it.
He really does. I think that it's an automatic pay raise is what it is. Like, it's basically bend to my will or else you'll lose your coach. Yes. So that is part of what makes Jimmy Sexton so successful. And also simultaneously what makes him so disliked by some. He plays that middle role, which is the exact role you would expect of an agent. That's their job, to get more money for their clients. Sark maybe do a raise, though, after 2 consecutive college football semifinal appearances. Let's talk a little bit now, if y'all don't mind, about the game itself coming up on Friday. CJ, I'm going to ask you your thoughts. I haven't really talked to you much. you and Rod did a semi breakdown on Sunday morning for people. What are your main takeaways for this upcoming game?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think this is the hottest team in college football, especially since the college football playoff game started. Their path has been a buzzsaw, right? You don't want to get in their way. What they did to Tennessee at home, then followed it up with defeating Oregon, a team that they completely blew out in the Rose Bowl, lost to them early in the year, kind of avenged that, got the monkey off their back and moved forward. I mean, that's 1,000 yards of offense in 2 games, right? You talk about peaking at the right time throughout a season, finding that rhythm. They've absolutely found it offensively. And Will Howard's thrown for north of 300 passing yards in both games. Jeremiah Smith has gone over 100 yards in both games. And that's not to mention both running backs are about 75 yards away from 1,000 yards on the season. And I know that Texas fans celebrated Trey Wisner reaching that mark a week ago. Look, they're 2 runs essentially away from having both guys hit that number this year. I know that they've been dinged up on their offensive line throughout the season. That's really the one area that maybe I could see Texas having some success with offensively against this Ohio State offense. It's going to be a tough call for me. And I think Texas is absolutely going to need to find some sort of run game for this game to go their favor. If not, look, that's a lot of pressure and responsibility to put on Quinn Ewers' shoulder. If he's asked to sit back there and throw 45 or 50 times a game against Ohio State, I say buckle up because I think that's going to be a long day. Got to find something of success with Trey Wisner, Jaden Blue, and Jarrett Gibson in that run game. Otherwise, look, it's a tough team to beat. I'm not sure how Michigan held them to 10, but looking back, what a job they did.
Yeah. Jerry, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, I watched Tenet last night on the road, obviously, hotel room live. But I watched back some of the Tennessee and Oregon games, and there's some things that stand out to me. Oregon nor Tennessee had good edge rush against Ohio State. The edge rush is imperative. That's Texas' strength to me in their front 7 this year is their ability to affect quarterbacks off the edge. And that is what's going to have to happen in this game for Texas because Tennessee couldn't do it and Oregon couldn't do it off the edge. Now, is some of that because Ohio State? Because I will say this, Rod Babers loves the pony package. Ohio State's got the best I've seen. When they have Judkins lined up to the right or left of Howard and they bring Henderson in motion and they fake counter and they may throw the ball to him, they have the toughest pony package to defend I've seen this year. Because they can put both those guys, Henderson and Judkins, in the game, and they can fake those counters with Judkins and get the ball to Henderson in space. And Henderson, as good of a runner as he can be, in this game, as a pass catcher, watch out for him in this game. Because if you focus too much attention on the outside receivers, Jeremiah Smith obviously is a freak and a Becca. They're going to put those linebackers in safeties in conflict as much as possible, and they can do it with their personnel. That's That's one of the things that stands out to me. And then how they their pass game off the fake counters is look, they caught Jeremiah. They got Jeremiah Smith in some one-on-ones in fake and counter and going over the top. So the Texas safeties and the linebackers are going to be put in constant conflict in this game. And the only way you can really help those guys out is if you rush off the edge and you're able to disrupt the timing and rhythm of their offense. Tennessee nor Oregon could do that. So that's the one thing. And then Ohio State defensively, they don't run a lot of games up front. They're pretty much saying, we got 4 NFL guys lined up here, and we think our 4 are going to neutralize yours. And we have 2 edge guys they're not explosive pass rushers like Colin Simmons, but they are power pass rushers with quickness. And they have 18 sacks combined. But they don't run games up front with that front. They will bring different linebacker blitzes, but they don't run a lot of exotics because they don't have to. They think we can win up front with our 4, and then our linebacker behind it, Cody Simon, when we want to blitz him, he's got 7 sacks. So they don't have to run a lot of exotics. On some instances, it's right there in front of you, and they're saying, all right, go execute. First, handle our pass rush. And then we may bring a linebacker out of blitz, Sonny Styles or Simon. And then, you have to go win against us. And it's kind of similar. It's not the same similar because it's a different scheme. Similar to Georgia in that we think we can win up front against you and with our front. And if you handle that, then we'll adjust. But that's just the most talented 3 high that Texas has seen since Sark's been in Austin.
It may be the most talented overall defense and offense combination Texas has seen. I mean, let's call it what it is. I mean, they are loaded on offense. They have a top 5 pick, most likely at wide receiver in Jeremiah Smith. They have another possible first rounder in Emeka Ebekwa, as well as Carnell Tate. Even they've got a quarterback that it's playing at a very high level, at least the last 2 games. And they've got 2 running backs that are supposed to be 2 of the top 3 running backs in the country off the board, along with Ashton Genty. So they are loaded on offense, and then on defense, they have 8 seniors playing. Here's the question I have, though, as we talk about this. William Nish, I love that sports media is all in on Ohio State. Sark is clearly playing into that, guys, with his comments on Saturday. Hey, nobody's giving us a chance. What he's saying in front of the camera, but behind the camera, he's probably trying to spur his guys on a little bit right now, don't you think? Oh, yeah. Playing a little possum. What do you think?
He hasn't been able to play this game in a while because Texas has been favored in every game. It's hard to play the underdog when you're favored in every game. So this is his opportunity to go Kirby Smart, John Calipari, and he's taking full advantage of it. And as he should, absolutely should. You would expect nothing less from Sark in this situation. But again, when you're favored all the time, it's hard to play that card. And this is one time he's a 6-point dog, and I think he's loving it, and the staff's loving it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of when the last time that would have been the case for Texas. They were favored against Washington. They've been favored against Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game, all the way through. They
at Bama 2 years ago.
At Bama would probably be the only one, but even then, I don't like the stakes not as high as this. Obviously, we'll see if he's got that Kirby Smart in him again. That was one of the things I couldn't believe the most was after that second national championship, him coming out and saying no one believed in us all year, and you're sitting there thinking, wait, you just went wire to wire as the number 1 team in the country. Let's see if Sark can pull that rabbit out of his hat as well.
I bet the last time Texas has been this big or a underdog in a game of consequence may have been the Big 12 championship with Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Against Sam Ehlinger. I bet that is the last time. I mean, in all seriousness, that's what happens when you play in the Big 12. Bob Walk also says in 2005, I remember all the hype for USC, but all this crap for Ohio State is getting on my nerves. I think a lot of people feel the same way, but it's okay to respect your opponent. I think it can be healthy. Doesn't have to be, as long as you don't run away with it. Look, I mean, we think they're really good, but I'll be honest. If I'm on the other side and I'm Ohio State, I'm thinking Texas is really good. So it's okay to respect your opponent, but anybody sitting here saying, "Oh, well, Texas is going to get, dog walked." I mean, maybe Texas does, right? And it happens, but nobody's for sure on this thing. I'm telling you, there are 4 teams left, and any of these 4, I think, can win this game. I really do believe that. They've got the front on offense and defense to neutralize people. And so do other teams in this one. It's going to be how these guys play, in my opinion. Jerry, you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I was going to say the other thing offensively that I noticed on tape from Ohio State, I'm not sure. I think the pass game to Trayvon Henderson, how often can Chip Kelly get Texas linebackers in conflict because he's going to attack them, is one. And then what they do, it's either with Smith, he scored on against Oregon, or Rebecca, the wide receiver in motion, not running a shallow drag, but in motion, and get the ball to that guy in the flat off fake counter. Those are the 2 actions I've seen with Ohio State. Everybody's talking about Jeremiah Smith, the great plays he can make, and I get it. That's going to get the most of the attention. I think Ohio State loves that getting most of the attention, by the way. But when they get when Rebecca or Smith in motion, not a shallow drag, but in motion behind the line of scrimmage, and they fake counter and they throw that ball to those guys in full speed in the flats, in the perimeter. That's the other action I've seen from Ohio State that I think is really dangerous. Those are the 2 things that's going to put Texas in a lot of conflict. because Chip Kelly's using a lot of the fake counters to get people to get linebackers and safeties in conflict. That's going to be huge for Texas in this game.
All right, a couple of notes here real quick, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the situation at field goal kicker, if you don't mind. But a couple of quick ones. Texas had their choice and will wear icy whites. That from Big Time Bill. That is true. Texas, the higher ranked, Texas had their choice and chose to wear the icy whites. That means just like they did in the Peach Bowl, Texas will be in the all whites on Friday night. So make sure you understand that. Has there been any reporting on Mac's involvement in the recruiting out of North Carolina? There was no involvement from Mac Brown in that recruitment. Period. End of discussion. No involvement whatsoever on that, D. Jones, although it would seem kind of interesting. Let's talk about this now. From Roe, give Will Stone a shot. Jerry and CJ, we've all heard it. We believe that Will Stone will get a shot at this point. It sounds like he's running first team in some practices this week over Bert Auburn. What do you make of this, guys? I'm hearing they're even changing out the holder for a left footer at this point. What are y'all's thoughts on this situation with Will Stone getting likely the start over Bert Auburn at place kicker, not just kicking off? That's what it sounds like, at least for right now. Maybe not on PATs, but field goal kicking. CJ, Jerry, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's due. Look, it's been a rocky road for Bert, right? There's no hiding that, and he's missed some really important games. You probably have a SEC championship trophy in your case right now if he was able to hit one of the two in Atlanta earlier this year. But I think more than anything, it's a confidence thing for Bert. And you can't throw a kicker out there who's all in his head and you can't figure out, the confidence aspect of it. And why not give Will Stone a shot, right? He's a scholarship kicker as well. He's kicked just as often as Bert does throughout practice, throughout the rest of the season as well. Look, it's one of those things for me where if you know that you're setting up the field goal, unit and you have no confidence in it, why not just keep the offense out there? This at least gives you that confidence, or at least that idea that it could go a different way. I still think Texas should be as aggressive on fourth downs as possible, even in some of these situations where taking the points would be, kind of by the book, if you will. But by now, I don't think there's anything this year that you could do to save what Bert has done. And it's unfortunate because, again, this was a guy a year ago that was as reliable as anybody in the country. And it's just kind of snowballed to a point of no return for me.
Jerry, you think they need to make the move also?
It's an interesting call because Will Stone's never kicked a field goal in a game. So is his first field goal attempt
at least not in college? Not in college.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So, is his first field goal attempt going to be a 45-yarder in the closing minute against Ohio State if it comes down to that? That's a tough spot to put somebody in, man, that's never done it, right? So would Sark revert back to going with the guy who's at least made them, even though he's struggling? And if it came down to that situation and Stone didn't have a field goal attempt in the game, I don't know. That's actually a really tough call for me because, look, maybe if you have a 30-yard chip shot field goal and Will Stone gets one out of the way, that's one thing. But just imagine for a second, the game's 28-28 and there's 15 seconds left and you're at 4th and 6 and you have to kick a 45-yard field goal to win the game. Are you going to send out a guy that's never kicked a field goal in college football before? That's a pretty tough spot. So Sark's got a really difficult decision to make if a scenario played out like that.
I've got to say this. I think it's time to make the move. I do think what you described, Jerry, is very difficult in all fairness. Having a situation where Texas has to make a decision like that. But look, Bert Auburn hit over 80% of his field goals his first 2 years as a starter. This year, he's at 64%. He's currently at 16 of 25. Like Bert Auburn a lot, but that's a fireable offense. He's 6 of 12, anything over 40 yards. So you take away 6 of 6 from 20 to 29, and 4 of 5 from 30 to 38. He's 6 of 12 from 40 to 49 and 0 for 2 beyond 50. So, Jerry, he literally is 6 of 14 beyond 40 yards. Yep. So you're going to give me a chance to win it? I'll take the new guy if it's from a 45 yard. If it's from 45 yards,
tough call start.
Yeah, I mean, you get my point though. That I mean, the stats back up the decision in that regard, in my opinion. All right, we're going to get some more of your questions and concerns and thoughts, all of those things today here on Texas football. But first, Jerry, do you mind telling folks a little bit about our week-long sponsor during the college football playoffs, and that is our friends over at Duck Camp.
I certainly can. Duck Camp is made for the people that live in the moments out there where there are fish to catch, birds to hunt, time to kill, football to watch, snowball fights before the game Friday, whatever it is. They're like doing all that stuff. They built a company centered on it, based in Austin, and dedicated to giving people best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel. There are those of you out there that look forward to the opening day of hunting season and the kickoff of a Longhorn football semifinal game with the fervor and excitement of a 5-year-old on Christmas morning. And Duck Camp is here to let you know that from opening day to semifinal game day, they've got you covered. At Duck Camp, they believe you can't just sit around and wait for the adventure to come to you. You have to get out there, stay out there, and make the most of every second. Here's the great continued season, y'all. Yes, hunting, football, and snowball fighting season. Shop hunting gear at duckcamp.com.
I love their hoodies, man. They're great stuff there from the guys at Duck Camp. Thanks, Jerry, for doing that read for us. And thank you to Duck Camp for sponsoring all of college football playoff week for us. Hey, guys, I also want to say thank you to one of our new sponsors this week, and that is Prize Picks. Right now, it is playoff time, obviously, in not only college football, but also in the NFL. And so it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the playoffs. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going to go off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the app today and use code ONTEXAS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app, use code ONTEXAS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Thank you to the fine folks at Prize Picks for sponsoring On Texas Football. All right, we're going to go back to the chat line a little bit here and pick up some questions and get you guys involved here a little bit more. MP Houston, did Kelvin Banks' false start that made it 4th and 13 instead of 4th and 8 actually help by giving us more field to work with and encouraging ASU to all-out blitz? It looked like they were going to blitz out of that anyways on 4th and 8. That's what it looked like to me. They had provided a similar looking front, but to your point, MP Houston, did it give Texas more field to work with? CJ, what do you think?
I actually hadn't put this thought together, but it certainly worked out in its favor, right? That route concept, that by Golden maybe doesn't have the room if it's 5 yards, further up as well. So that's pretty interesting. I hadn't thought of it like that before. But it is funny how it all worked out. One thing I will say, 4 false starts from 10 minutes on in the fourth quarter. So overtime, got to be cleaned up against Ohio State. I'll tell you that. And I think that's going to be a game where you're thinking a little bit more about your get off the line of scrimmage and some of the pass rushers that they've got on the opposite side of the ball as well. So funny how it worked out in Texas's benefit, but that absolutely needs to be cleaned up moving forward.
Yeah, the four false starts that happened in the fourth quarter and overtime combined, I'm told that Arizona State was calling out the Texas plays to their to the defense, to their fellow defense, and that's what kind of shook the Texas offensive linemen. They were hearing something similar, and so they were going on it, and it's what caused the 4 false starts. And it wasn't just any one player; it was 3 different players that had that issue. To your point, CJ, it's definitely got to be cleaned up. CJ and Jerry, y'all both mentioned the need to stop the Ohio State run game. And this from Ryan Riggins. Am I the only one who thinks we match up pretty well with our back end and run D? Everyone talking about how good Ohio State is. Well, we're pretty good too. I agree with that. And I will say this, while Ohio State masquerades as a big play offense with these amazing weapons at wide receiver, and they do have tremendous weapons at wide receiver. Down to the wire, they're actually a run first team. They have success running the ball, and they're going to win football games. They don't, and it gets a little hairy for them at times. Texas's defensive front versus the Ohio State run game, is that really the game within a game that matters the most to y'all? Because if Texas can stop the run game, which is what Michigan did to Ohio State, Texas has more than just a fighting chance, in my opinion. Is that the game within a game, Jerry?
Yeah, but they can't do it the same way because Michigan had the 2 first-rounders on the interior.
Maybe they can. We'll see, right?
I'd be surprised. Look, I think the linebackers are going to have to play really well in the run game because Ohio State's going to counter you. And they ran Will Howard on QB counter with Judkins leading him up the hole too. So there's going to be a lot of counter in this game. I believe that the Texas linebackers, I think Texas can neutralize up front in the run game. Neutralize. I'm not saying they're going to blow up Ohio State because they have good players. But I mean, you're talking about 2 first-rounders on the interior for Michigan. I mean, they could play it differently. They could play with a lighter box. But Texas, it's going to be interesting to see what PK does in terms of that. But Leon Galafau, Anthony Hill, they have huge jobs in this game because they have to play run. They're going to have to play counter Leon Galafau. But then they all watch the tape. They know that Chip Kelly's going to try to put them in conflict in the passing game too. Because G. Scott, the kid who came to Ohio State as a receiver, has grown into a flex tight end. He's a difficult matchup to offset, the run game for Ohio State. They attack with him a little bit. They try to get him in some matchups. So I think the linebackers have to have an extremely good game playing the run Friday.
What do you think, CJ, about that Ohio State run game? Is that really if Ohio State gets that run game uncorked,
yep,
is that when Texas needs to just hold on for dear life a little bit? Because I feel that to be the case.
Yeah, I think so a little bit. Look, the 2 games that Ohio State really struggled with offensively was against Michigan. They had about 40 yards rushing, and against Nebraska, surprisingly, where both games their leading rusher was held under 50 yards. It was the only 2 times the entire season that's happened. And a 21-17 win against Nebraska is nothing to write home about, even with all of this talent from Ohio State side of things. So I think for both teams, right, establishing the run, finding some success to alleviate the pressure on the quarterback is going to be key. We've seen what Texas offense looks like without a run game, right? Georgia, both times, it's been tough. It was tough against Arizona State for most of that game as well. Ohio State is very similar in that aspect as well. And if you can put as much pressure as you can on Will Howard, look, Rod said it several times. He's got that Will Spill the Pill Howard nickname for a reason, right? And Texas has seen that for 4 years prior to his trip up to Columbus. So that's going to be key. Which team can kind of neutralize the run game of the other and benefit as a result? Because you're going to benefit in a game like this if you can't pick up 4 yards on first down and make life very easy for you on second and third. I'm more to the side of Ohio State having more success running the football than Texas in this game, just because the inconsistencies that we've seen throughout the last 3 months from Texas in the run game is significantly higher than what we've seen from Ohio State, which has been pretty darn good throughout most of the season as well. So we'll see. Maybe there's a wrinkle in there. Maybe Texas finds success. But what I know is Texas has allowed a 40-yard rush in each of the last 3 ball games. So we'll continue to see if that gets clogged up or remedied at all before Texas makes the trip up to Arlington this week.
Wait, time out. Texas has allowed a 40-yard rush each of the last 3 games. They allowed a 40-yard rush against A&M?
No. Well, Georgia, Clemson, Arizona State.
Okay. Got it. Sorry about that. That's how many games we're playing now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, we all like to say hi to folks whenever they're in the family and friends of players on the team or former athletes as well. Junior Gong with the super chat. We about to shock the world. Love from Leonga's family. Thank you so much for checking in, and best of luck to Leonga and the guys on Friday. I know that the team, by the way, is moving up there or going up to Dallas on Wednesday. They are going up 2 days ahead. That has pushed the practice schedule up 2 days, by the way. So, for instance, yesterday's practice, which was held yesterday afternoon around 2 o'clock, it was moved up. It was a typical Wednesday practice for them. A typical Tuesday practice for them, which is light shoulder pads, light work kind of. Today they'll practice again. It'll be a typical Thursday practice, or typical Monday practice for them. I'm all backed up here. I'm saying they're 2 days ahead, essentially, guys. My apologies. Question here real quick. When are the officials announced? They've actually already been announced, and it is an ACC crew again. The head official is one that actually had the Ohio State-Tennessee game already. So they've seen most of these guys. I think all but 3 of the refs in the game are also part of the Ohio State-Tennessee crew. So that one's
Ohio State had 3 penalties called on them in that game, by the way. So
3 penalties total.
Yeah. They've had 7 called on them in the last 3 games combined. So 2, 3, 2. So in terms of discipline and calls against they've been playing some really good football as a result.
Any holding calls by chance?
Not that I've seen.
Jerry, you had something you want to say?
Yeah, so I was going to bring this one up because somebody asked about this earlier. Interstate Kiki. Hey, Jerry, does Texas have any interest in Caden Dixon-Wyatt, 2026 receiver out of Mater Dei? Absolutely. He's been on campus a couple of times. He has a January 25th Junior Day invite. I was going to mention that too. On TexasFootball.com, I have the list of Junior Days confirmations. Those guys are starting to roll in. There's some big names. Sean Scott from Mater Dei, one of the better edge prospects in the 26 class. He's been on campus 2 or 3 times once this year. Sean Scott said he's coming last night. And so there's a Toa Katoa, Nicholas Robertson, Jalen Lott, Caden Finley, Jermichael Finley's son, starting to get a lot of confirmations of guys that are coming in January 25th. And I wanted to mention that January 25th is ultra competitive for 2026 high school recruiting Junior Day, because all the teams in the playoffs pretty much set their Junior Days for the 25th. Notre Dame, the same. Georgia, the same. Now, that doesn't mean that if you're out now, you won't have some kids trickle in here and there, because we are now back in the live period. The dead period is over last night at midnight. So we are in the live period. You're going to start to see some 2026 guys show up on campuses now. But January 25th is Texas Junior Day, because the reality is you can't plan a Junior Day not knowing if you're going to be playing or not. So January 25th is the day a lot of these schools have picked. So there's competition to get these kids on campus. But right now there's some really key and big names starting to confirm that they're going to be on campus January 25th for the Texas Junior Day. That includes Dylan Berryman, defensive lineman, one of the top line targets out of a Ouachita Parish in Monroe. Yaya Gyad, the kid out of Tennessee, told me again last night he's coming in January 25th. Texas is also battling bowl games. And all these colleges are battling bowl games now because juniors are being selected to play in the all-star games because so many kids are enrolling early, and maybe because of NIL, the seniors don't want to play in all-star games. So the Polynesian Bowl happens around January 21st in that area that week. So there's some kids. CJ talked to Kevin Ford at Duncanville, the KJ Ford, the edge. He's going to be in Hawaii for the Polynesian Bowl, so he can't make a Junior Day. And I've had a couple other guys say the same thing. A&M commit Aaron Gregory out of Douglas County, Georgia, who Texas is still heavily recruiting. Same thing with him. So these colleges are battling different things to get these kids on campus now. But January 25th, Junior Day, starting to that list is on TexasFootball.com, and it's there's a number of high four-star guys that are already confirming they're coming in.
All right. Thank you very much, Jerry. Just to recap, just to go back to what we started with this morning, in case you're just now joining us, we've had about 1,000 people join us in the last 30 minutes here. Travis Shaw, defensive lineman out of North Carolina, has committed to Texas and signed with Texas, by the way. Not just commitment. He is the 4th transfer portal addition for Texas this offseason. Brad Spence and Cole Brevard already working out with the team in Austin, the defensive tackle from Purdue, as well as the linebacker out of Arkansas. Now Travis Shaw will join the team here momentarily. Jack Baumeister, the other one, is a punter that I believe will start working out with the team this week or next as well. So those are guys to keep in mind. Also, Will Stone, we can report, has been taking some first-team reps on the field with the Longhorn kicking team, place kicking team. That's the left footer out of Austin who handles the kickoff tours. This would be a potential replacement for Bert Auburn as field goal kicker. Nothing like going with a new field goal kicker 16 games into your season. But when you're 16 of 25 like Bert Auburn is and 6 of 14 beyond 40 yards, it says a little bit about what is going on right now with him. All right, we got some more chat questions to get to that we're going to take on right now. Woodcrest says, would you guys agree this isn't a game that PK should have a bend but don't break mentality? Does this require a change in mentality, Jerry?
You're not going to change what you do in week 16 or 18. The game is 16. I mean, you're not going to change much off of that. Maybe you break a tendency here and there, but you're not going to see. Texas does what they do well, and why are you going to change it, even against the most talented offense you face this year in terms of personnel? The whole key is where PK would be forced and Nance would be forced to go a little bit of a different route, Bobby CJ, is if the edge pass rush doesn't get home. Because Tennessee and Oregon, they don't have the edge pass rush Texas does, but they didn't get home. And if you don't get home right now against Ohio State, they got it rolling now. That everything Chip Kelly calls, man's turning up aces. So that's when you potentially have issues, is if they stymie your best pass rushers in this game. And that would be Colin Simmons not being effective in this game. That would be Trey Moore, who's coming on. All those edge rush guys where Texas has done a great job affecting quarterbacks. If they're not able to affect the quarterback in this game, that would force PK in Nanson's hand. The whole key is to get pressure with those guys so you can have everything covered behind it. If you start having to bring extra numbers in this game, it gets really dicey because you're putting guys in some tough situations man-to-man against really good players.
I also think that Tennessee never put Ohio State in a situation where they really could pin their ears back, because Tennessee does have James Spears.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, they just got on top of, and they did the same to Oregon, to be honest. They got on top of Oregon so heavy that there was no fight back, right? There's no opportunity for them to really get after a quarterback and affect the quarterback because Ohio State could play it close to the vest from really the second quarter on in both of those contests. It's hard when you're down 21-0. Anything works. Jerry's Jack Links. Tennessee and Oregon didn't have the running backs against OSU that we do. And OL is getting healthier. Yes, this is something worthy of reporting that I didn't mention in the outset. Cam Williams was out at practice running with the first team on Sunday. So that is really good news for Texas fans. Isaiah Bond was doing the same. Texas could be getting as healthy as they've been in a long, long time this week, and that could pay dividends. Tennessee was without Dylan Sampson most of that game. Oregon's running game is not, it's not a great one. I don't know that Texas has better running backs, though, than Oregon at this point. Very similar. I would say that Texas has a better offensive line, though, than those groups. And that's really what it comes down to when you're starting to talk about neutralizing one of the strengths of the Ohio State defense, which is their defensive front.
Yeah, Jordan James got knocked out of that game too. So Ohio State's 2 for 2 in the playoffs, knocking out starting running back CJ. Now Sampson, I'm not sure they knocked him out as much as he got hurt, but they definitely haven't faced a team's full component of talent for an extended period of time in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and what Texas can't afford is another game where they're rushing for 40 yards. right? And so that's going to have to be a whole unit, approach. Offensive line, running backs, you're going to have to break some tackles against an Ohio State team. And, for Texas's credit or lack thereof, there's been some times where you haven't seen those missed tackles. But when you have seen them, hey, they've done a tremendous job racking up the rush yards. Jaden Blue getting loose, Trey Wisner, never easy to bring down. This is going to have to be a game where you fight for every extra yard because it's not going to come easy up front.
I love it. Hey, CJ, this one from Texas, Jasper, going to reach out to you on this. How many high schoolers right now are running scout team? Lance Jackson, Michael Terry. Who else is out there right now?
Justice Terry. So there's 3 from the 2025 signing class that are practicing and traveling with the team at the moment. I believe the rest of the early enrollees will move in January 12th. So coming up here, next Sunday, essentially. But I actually got to walk the sideline a little bit and, got to see Lance Jackson, got to see Michael Terry. The two of them were throwing, the football back and forth with one another on the day before the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. And, they kind of exemplify that big human, kind of mantra that we've seen Texas recruit. And then the day of the game on the sideline, I was watching the defensive line warm up, and I ran into Justice Terry. So I kind of shook his hand, introduced myself. Bobby, you've talked to him. You've seen him in person. Jerry, you have as well. Big hands, strong hands. A guy that certainly is built like a 5-star athlete and has, 280 pounds, give or take a few pounds there. Plenty of room to fill out with his frame. He was great, just briefly got to chat with him. A really, really nice kid. He said he was excited for the playoff run, is eager to get his pads back on and start playing football. But that was something I took away, is the 3 guys from high school that Texas has in this recruiting class, 15 stars combined, and they all look the part. And that's something that's greatly going to benefit them moving forward, is getting this experience, getting to practice with the team, trying to learn as much as you can about the installation and the schemes. I know right now they're all running scout team for the Longhorns, but that's going to help them a lot come spring football, when this isn't a brand new concept to them.
My take on it, and those guys, those young guys, it's just getting more reps and more used to what they're going to have to deal with when spring practice really begins. Spring practice expected to get started in March, by the way. They have not come out with a final date, but that's what I'm being told at this point in time. So you guys be on the lookout for that. Jack Lala says, missed Blake. Blake is out this morning. He got a little sick over the weekend, so he's taking an off day. But always glad when CJ and Jerry are on together. It's they've got a little knowledge between those 2 ears of theirs, in my opinion. So yes, let's ask this question because I think it's a fun one. Matt Feebster, if Sark wins the coin toss, which unit do you think he sends out first?
This is kind of interesting because do you prepare for not having any success in the third quarter, or do you prepare for getting off to a hot start in the first quarter? Obviously, Texas kicked off against Arizona State, went 3 and out in the third quarter, took off about 10 seconds of game time, and we saw how that went. But I do start to wonder if those third quarter woes go into the decision at all for Sarkeesian. Otherwise, if all things considered, I would want the ball out of halftime in this game. I think that you trust the defense, see if Will Howard and Ohio State can go 75 or 70 yards to start the game with a score. I trust the defense more and would like that extra possession in the second half for this game.
Jerry, would you take the ball? Because I've got my own answer here. I want to give a little bit later.
I'm probably taking the ball in this game because Ohio State's been so hot offensively starting games. That's my thing is you can feel if they go out and pop 3-4 plays touchdown against you, then you're like, I would take the ball in this game personally, and I would see if I can establish my offense first against Ohio State because they have been such a hot offensive team the last 2 weeks starting games. You got to remember they've been up 21-0 and 34-0 the last 2 playoff games. I'm taking the ball.
Jerry, you read my mind because that's what I would say. I think you got to take the ball to kind of counteract how you got to put their offense at a little bit of a – their offense has not faced a pressure situation.
Right.
In forever. So you got to put a little bit of performance pressure on them. So I would take the ball as well and hope that you do score. If you don't score, obviously it's a failed experiment. But I think that you may need to in this scenario.
Yeah, Texas 2 for 2 on its first drive, scoring touchdowns over the last 2 games. Something that they've kind of struggled with the entire season. So maybe they've figured something out there.
That's a good point, CJ. Really good point. All right, Jerry's Jax Link says, I told you it wasn't Kevin Marr, the Big 12 official. I want to say this. It's not so much Kevin Marr that we have an issue with as a referee. It's the Kevin Marr crew that has been beleaguered and bemoaned. I think that some people just get singular names in there. The lack of holding calls by Kevin Marr's crew over the years has been something to behold. Coben Vision, hook 'em all the way from Delaware will be a great matchup. Go Horns. Defense will show up huge later in the fourth. Tell you what, the Texas defense, except for against Arizona State, has shown up in the fourth quarter for the Longhorns. This morning I was going back and I actually watched the second half and overtime of last year's Kansas State game. It was probably the last kind of collapse Texas had in the second half, actually, on defense. And Will Howard was throwing the ball all over the place. Texas was not getting a consistent pass rush, but they stood up in that overtime. They really, really did, and held Kansas State out of the end zone. I hope the defense does show up in the fourth like that, because that would be huge coming. Appreciate you. Parth Brooks, we met him over at Duck Camp the other week. Morning, fellas. Do we look to establish the run game early, or just go empty and look for favorable one-on-one matchups and see if Quinn can go win this game? I worry that forcing the run gets us out of rhythm. Man, I think you'd like a one-on-one with Rod Babers to talk about this, because Rod is all about going 5 wides against 3 high safety look, 2 tight ends as well in that look, and a number of different pieces. What do y'all think? You think Sark tries a little bit of everything and see what sticks, CJ?
I think you have to early. You just have to. But I do think, especially in the third quarter, is where you see Sark start to force runs. And that's where I think you get in trouble a lot, is you kind of put yourself in the third down and long because of 2 failed run attempts. And, we've heard Sark speak about it, right? He likes to use that second half to play that complementary, balanced football, which is essentially just run out the game when you're up big. And that's kind of been where he's come into issues over the last 4 years here at Texas, right? Remember 2021, Texas had leads in almost every game that they lost in that opening season. They lost 8 games, right? It was ugly. So I think that there's a little bit to that of forcing the run, kind of forcing this running game to get going later in games. But I think it would be a really tall task for Quinn Ewers to come out and not have any sort of confidence in the run game, right? But to Sark's opening play call script, we've seen him start games 15 of 16 and pass plays, right? He did that against ULM. He's gone 8 of 10 against Michigan, and the first 10 play calls being passes. That's kind of what we've seen him do, is come out, get Quinn Ewers going. He went 2 for 77 against Arizona State on the opening drive a week ago. So it's going to be a lot of pass heavy first, kind of set up the offense, and then start working as a result backwards into the run game. But I'm kind of eager to do a deep dive on that third quarter play calling, because I do think there's something to it of just wanting to ground and pound and run out clock and, get it going from there. And it just hasn't worked.
I have a question for you. It's one thing to come out throwing and passing first early, but what Parth is talking about is actually spreading them out. Sark likes to pass first early in games in 11 personnel.
Yeah.
What about 5 wides? What about really spreading them out, which is more what Rod talks about in being very, what's the right word? Overconfident, not overconfident, but really extreme is the word he uses with their lineups. Does Texas come out and be extreme with their lineups early and show 5 wides or 2 tight ends or a Big 12 personnel or two running backs even?
Well,
is that what they do more of?
Well, the first time we see 4 wides on the field will probably be the first time this year, right? I don't think he's done it very often at all. We certainly haven't seen 5 wides on the field. Sark likes that 11 personnel. That's the basis of his engine, right? That's what gets his offense going. I don't think he's going to change too much of that against Ohio State this deep into the season. But, if you're looking for a tendency breaker, maybe it is just that. But I have a hard time seeing it.
What if they use 11 personnel but run 5 wide?
Yeah. Maybe.
That's more what I'm talking about. Not necessarily the personnel groupings, but the actual looks you give the defense.
Yeah, the numbers are good when Texas goes empty, and Rod will speak to that. We spoke about it a little bit in the preview. We'll talk about it more later this week in the preview. Texas goes 5 wide. They go empty. They're good with the completions and the efficiency there. Again, you just don't see it too often.
If you're going to spread it out, you have to be confident your tackles are going to win one-on-ones against 2 NFL draft picks. Though those guys may be a late first, second round level guys. You're putting your both tackles on islands and saying they're going to win. And I think that is going to be the key is, look, you're facing really good players. This is in a lot of ways, the edges are going to be very impactful in this game both ways. Because Texas has to protect Quinn. And it's been the case all year. And I don't care how talented Ohio State is. I don't care if they run 3 high. Texas has really good personnel. If Texas can protect Quinn, then look, Texas will make plays. They will drive the football. But the key is this is an edges and tackles game to me. This is a lot of times there's different matchups within games, but JT and Sawyer, we talk about Colin Simmons and Texas edges, but JT and Sawyer have to really affect this game because that will take Sark in a lot of ways out of what he ideally wants to do in the passing game, I believe. So if Banks, Cam Williams have to hold up their end in this game against guys that are going to go late first, second round, third round guys who have combined for 18 and a half sacks this year, that's going to be huge in this game if Sark's going to be able to have everything at his command in a passing game.
Yeah, Banks and Williams, you can't get Cam Williams back soon enough because not only is he a good pass protector, but his run blocking actually created some holes. He and DJ Campbell together, along with Jake Majors pulling. All right, I want to say thank you real quick to one of our newest sponsors this week. That is Rocket Money. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with them, but Rocket Money finds any subscriptions you've forgotten about or paid for twice and didn't realize it. Rocket Money has an alert that allows you to increase. It actually alerts you when a subscription price has increased. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. I found one myself, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users. This isn't some fly-by-night company, and has saved a total of $500 million for users in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Again, that's Rocket Money. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/game on today. That's rocketmoney.com/game on, rocketmoney.com/game on. And Rocket Money's dashboard gives you a clear view of your total expenses across all your accounts. Again, that's rocketmoney.com/game on, the app that helps you save on unwanted subscriptions. Thank you for your promotion or your sponsorship of On Texas Football.
Can the Aggies use that against Jimbo? Can they get out of that subscription after?
Jerry, I think that may be a little too much to ask. I think that would be like 1/10 of what they've saved every customer in the United States. 75 million versus 750 million.
Hey, A&M fans, look up Rocket Money. You never know.
Love it, Jerry. Clay K, curious to see if there's any advantage to Bond having been teammates with Caleb Downs at Alabama. That we talked about Quinn Ewers being up at Ohio State. We haven't talked about Caleb Downs, the star safety for the Buckeyes, and Isaiah Bond having been teammates last year at Alabama. I'm sure they went up against each other a lot in practice. Any thoughts on that? Because Caleb Downs respects Isaiah Bond's speed because he's seen it, right? I mean, what do y'all think?
Yeah, so I haven't seen, and I'm not saying 6 years down the line, but I'm not sure man-to-man coverage is a strength of Caleb Downs or is going to be a strength of Caleb Downs until after later in as he continues to develop. And is there advantage to it? I don't know, but I think the one thing you're going to see, and one thing that's helped Caleb Downs, and I'm not sure it's best for his long-term development. I think playing more man and learning under Saban, although Saban retired, would have been better. But in this 3-high defense, man, it really plays to Caleb Downs' strengths. He's not put in man conflict very often. So does it help? I don't know. But if Texas can't get Caleb Downs in man coverage, if they're not able to do that, if Ohio State does not allow that to happen, because Ransom and Downs they're flying at you and they're going to knock your helmet off, or they're going to try. But Downs man-to-man coverage skills is not his strength. The guy's a tremendous player, future first-rounder. That's not his strength, but I'm not sure in this defense how much that's going to matter Friday.
All right, next one from Edgar Padilla. A good question here. Watched almost every OSU game this year. Lulls of mediocre play and lack of execution often. Line of scrimmage was dominated by Michigan. We got this. Let me ask you this. Who is OSU played, Ohio State played, that's the most reasonable facsimile of Texas? Who is that for them? Is it Michigan? Is it Oregon? Because I don't think they fit either of those two teams. They're a little bit of a mix. What are Nebraska or Indiana? What's been a reasonable? Have they played anybody that's like Texas? Is it Penn State maybe?
I don't think either team's played somebody like the other.
I don't either. I think defensively maybe there are some similarities with Penn State for Texas. Abdul Carter off the edge is one of the top edge rushers. They've got guys that can get home in that front seven. Their secondary as a result benefits pretty much because of the pass rush. I think that's the closest. But I don't know. There aren't many that you can look at and point to and draw a lot of similarities with on either side, really.
Yeah, I mean, the closest is definitely Penn State. I agree with that, Bobby, the chat. But Penn State's got a little better run at you game. So maybe defensively with Penn State, but offensively, I think it's different. Penn State's got, Warren's a stud, but he's not really an inline tight end. But they have good players on the perimeter. They don't have what Texas has on the perimeter either. So it's just different personnel wise.
Jerry, you talk about different. I have a question that I want to bring up. Texas was in the national semifinals last year, faced a hot quarterback, hot wide receivers, and Michael Penix. The difference this year, and you said it on last night's live stream with Rod, is that Texas now has a pass rush.
Yeah.
If Texas had this pass rush a year ago, Texas would likely be playing and then would have played Michigan for the national championship, in my opinion.
Yes, no doubt.
CJ, you agree with that?
Yeah.
That thought process? Okay. So what's it going to be this year? What is the thing that Texas is lacking that could cost them against Ohio State? Is it a power running back? Is it a Tavondre Sweat type guy up the middle that's both athletic and what's Texas missing that could be a problem against Ohio State in this semifinal, like the pass rush was missing last year against Washington?
To me, it's all about the consistency in the run game. Look, every game Texas has struggled in, there's not been a run game to be found for Texas. And again, it's all about shortening down in distances to go. If Texas is forced to sit in 3rd and 8 and Ohio State can play that cover 3 high with Caleb Downs and Lathan Ransom and Denzel Burke, good luck. Because, again, that was the big issue Texas had against Georgia when they had 18 third down attempts and their average distance to go was 11.6, right? Not many teams in all of the country are going to have much success in that regard. So It's all about finding some sort of consistency with that run game. And it's not that you have to break, a 20 or 30-yard run, right? Texas, you just can't have your longest run of a game against Ohio State be 7 yards like it was against Arizona State. That's not going to put you in very opportunistic positions, right, where Texas likes to throw deep. We saw that a few times, and there were some good plays made by Matthew Golden down the field, right? There were some pass interferences drawn against Clemson, but hey, when you're running for 250 yards against Clemson, it helps bring those opportunities back out for you. I have to find some sort of consistency with that run game for the Longhorns. You got to find it and not abandon it immediately. And that's something I think Texas has struggled with, at least consistently, throughout the entire season.
I think one of the big things, look, I think nothing against Jaden Blue. I think he's I love him out of the backfield, getting him in space. This is one of those games where if you had CJ Baxter and Trey Wisner, you had your inside zone guy, you had your outside zone guy. So teams have to prepare for both. That's a difference, right? But in this game in particular, without that even being a possibility, I think Quinn hitting a couple of balls outside the numbers early would be huge down the field in this game. Huge. And I know it's 3 high. I get it. But if he hits a couple, it changes the way that Ohio State safeties play in that 3 high, I believe. Look, the threat of somebody beating you with an explosive throw, not catch and run, but explosive throw down the field outside the numbers, that's a game changer in a game like this. So I would love for Quinn to have some early success outside the numbers, not the 3-yard underthrow to Ryan Wingo if he's got space. Hit that play. If you hit that play, that starts to hit a little bit differently for Jim Knowles and that Ohio State defense. That, to me, with the personnel currently in front of Texas, maybe the most important thing offensively is if you have one of those opportunities, a couple of those opportunities early, you gotta ping him in this game. You gotta ping him, because if they don't have fear of you connecting deep outside hash, outside numbers, then a lot of the fear is gone.
I'll tell you the thing that I worry about is them running power at Texas, because they don't have Avondre Sweat. And I think that's the one way that if Ohio State can establish the run against Texas, I think it's going to be a long day. I think it's going to be a long day. Now their outside guys are going to make plays.
Yep.
Great players going to make plays. Quarterback's pretty good. But if they can run the ball consistently against Texas, it's going to be a long one. All right, let's flip that though. Now that talk about what Ohio State what Texas lacks that Ohio State could take advantage of. This one from Greg: what's the biggest edge you would say we have over Ohio State? So flip that a little bit. What is the biggest edge Texas has? Is it?
I think Texas can win against Ohio State corners if they can pass protect. I'll say that, and I'll let y'all go from there.
What do you think, CJ? Because I think it's the edge rush that Ohio State hasn't seen, except for Michigan.
I was leaning edge rush. And look, Ohio State's not allowed many sacks this season, but what they can do for this edge rush is get Will Howard out of the pocket, flush him, and make him force a really tough throw on the move, which isn't really Will Howard's game, right? He's an athletic, mobile quarterback that can hurt you with his legs, sure. But that extra creative playmaker that we've seen kind of sweep over college football over the last few years is not necessarily Will Howard's game. So I look at the edges. I look at Trey Moore. I look at Colin Simmons, the explosive first step off of the ball. And whether or not you get home or not, it's just getting him off the spot in the pocket and forcing him to be, play hero ball a little bit. And that's something that I think can get him in trouble at times. We've seen it obviously for the last 4 years. When you do that, you get him off of his spot, let him play off script. The ball comes out more times than not. So that to me is the biggest thing. And I'm interested to Jerry's point. Denzel Burt allowed 76% of his targets for completions, about 400 yards on the year. That's an area I think Texas could exploit as well. But how often will they put him in a position to do just that with Lathan Ransom and Caleb Downs playing over the top of him?
And then the other corner I think he's one of the more penalized corners, similar to Avion Terrell. better prospect, NFL prospect, probably because Devin, I won't say his last name, but he's 6'2" and can really run, but he's a highly penalized player too. Corners are where you have to attack Ohio State.
Got to say this real quick. We talk about players all the time and fans and whatnot. I also want to give a hat tip to the band members. This is Colton Martinez, who just graduated this semester. This has to be the most amount of miles the Longhorn band has ever traveled in its history. Cool for the 125th anniversary of the Longhorn band. It is part of the change of college football, I guess. Yeah, I think, is this the first time Texas has played 16 games in a college football season?
Oh, yeah.
I believe it is, right? Yeah. So, Colton, you're probably right. It probably is the most miles ever. I do understand that Colton, even though he's graduated, because it's still from last season, he gets to go to this game in Dallas and potentially the national championship. So he's going to be out there, going at it for us as well and being part of it all. Hey, I wanted to mention a couple things real quick. First of all, we have a tailgate that we are part of. I'll put the address on our site if you don't mind. On Friday, it's going to be cold outside. You're going to want a place that you can dip inside and also have space heaters. That's what this tailgate will have. I'll give you all some information about it later. Please join us. We'll be starting around 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon. Let's do that. And then also, Jerry and I will be coming to you live from Jerry World adjacent on Friday. And Jerry's going to have his parka on.
Ascot. I need an ascot. Who's got an extra ascot? It's going to be snowing Thursday and Friday now.
We're going to be coming to you from we're going to try to recreate, let's just say, the luck we had last year when the Longhorns took on the Oklahoma State Cowboys prior to the Big 12 playoff, a Big 12 championship game there. I want to say thank you for that. Also need to say thank you again to our sponsor, the Monday Coffee and Football episode brought to you by John Donovan, President, Longhorn Wealth Management Group, who today started his third year as our sponsor of Coffee and Football. As a proud UT alum, John has served for 15 years as a Dallas, Texas Exes board member and is now helping lead the build-out of the Collin County Texas Exes chapter. John looks forward to meeting any on-Texas football fans who can attend the tailgate in Arlington this Friday as the Horns prepare to take on Ohio State. John is predicting a 24-23 UT victory. Wow. You take it, John, and wants to share that winning confidence with all OTF fans by offering you a free 90-minute private consultation to learn how a certified financial planner like John can help you identify and implement the best strategies and solutions to maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and secure your legacy. Call John and the Longhorn Wealth Team today, 972-707-4900, or go online, www.longhornwealth.net, to schedule your free 90-minute private consultation. John wishes all OTF fans a happy new year, and let's beat Ohio State. Hook 'em from John and the Longhorn Wealth Management Team. All right, got time for a couple more questions here. Frank DeCluet, could this game be moved due to the possible weather conditions for traveling to the stadium? No, that's not happening, Frank. I understand what you're saying, but they'll play that. As long as the team buses can get there, they're going to play it. So my comment to all Texas fans out there, don't leave your house at 6 o'clock for the 7 o'clock kick. Actually, when Texas played Colorado, this is a sad story. Texas played Colorado in the Big 12 championship game. What was that, 0-1, Jerry? Mm-hmm. Chris Sims meltdown that game. I left my in-laws' house at like 5:30 for a 7 o'clock kick. I didn't get inside Jerry World inside Cowboy Stadium until 7:15. Now that was the old Cowboy Stadium. So if you're in Dallas and you're from Dallas, to get started a little earlier. But if you're going to be up there for the game, get started way early for this one so that you make it there in time. Come out, tailgate, do whatever you want to do, but make sure you get going early. So Texas makes sure to have a home stadium crowd, I guess is the best way to put it. We'll finish up with this. Texas Jasper. I think we populate to the ball better than any team I've ever seen when we're fresh. advantage Texas, but we've got to play complementary with offense to help them do that. All about Sark at this point using Quinn. Guys, Jerry, CJ, y'all think that's the focal point, getting Quinn confident and playing a full 4 quarters of attack style offense to keep Ohio State a little at bay and keep the pressure on them? What do you think, Jerry?
Yeah, I do. And one thing I want to add is these Ohio State ends are going to crash because they don't fear Quinn in the run game.
No.
So watch for Sark to pull something out in this game. He's going to, because, you can fake it and run, there's something you can do there. Not getting into specifics of what Sark would do, but you're going to see a wrinkle like that from Sark, I believe, in this game, because the Ohio State, CJ, the edges, they're going to crash. They're not going to think Quinn's going to run the football. Watch for something like that in this game. I'll say that.
I don't know if
I don't think that's going to happen. I think
I don't know if I'm seeing Quinn Ewers take off against an Ohio State defense. Unless it was spring of his freshman year, against the scout team, maybe back in the day. I'd be all for it. Anything that you could use to keep that defense at bay, make them respect what they, the trick up their sleeve or whatnot. To me, I think it's all about finding that consistency, just continuing to move the football. Every turn, every possession ending in a kick, some form, fashion, is a win for Texas in this game. If you do that, if this game turns into a shootout, that's the other thought I have. Who actually is in the advantage here? That's one of the questions I have is, do you rely on Will Howard to outthrow Quinn Ewers? Do you rely on the Texas secondary to outperform the Ohio State secondary? I think that's interesting if the game does turn into that, because look, 83 points scored in the first 2 rounds of the college football playoff for Ohio State. It's nothing to just turn around and say, it's nothing, right? Texas defense, good. They've played good defenses, Oregon and Tennessee, so far this year. So we'll see. But I'd like to think that Texas defensively needs to come out and have their best game of the season for this game to go in the favor of the Longhorns more than anything.
Jerry, I look at this, and as we close out here today, we're 4 days away now, 4 full days away from this happening. Texas getting a commitment, if you missed it earlier, late last night, from Travis Shaw, defensive tackle out of North Carolina, 6'5", 335. We talked a little bit about that. We talked about Will Stone taking some first-team reps at place kicker during the last couple of days of practice. We've also talked about Cam Williams and Isaiah Bond getting back on the practice field this week as well. We're 4 days out now. John Donovan just put up his score of 24-23. Y'all have a feel for this game, how this game's going to go at this point? Or is it really just too early? Is it just a game where we're going to have to wait and see which 2 teams show up, how the ball bounces? Because I feel like a couple plays here or there could be the determining factor. What are y'all's thoughts on this?
Look, I don't know if I'm ready for a true score prediction yet, but I do think Ohio State comes away with this game. I just think that the way that they've been playing, the talent that they have, that's a tall task for Texas. Now, who knows? Maybe Longhorn Nation comes in and swarms that place with the burnt orange, and Texas builds as a result of that, right? Quinn, maybe the last 15 minutes of game time against Arizona State was enough for him to say, I'm the best player in college football. I'm going to put the cape on and lead my team to a national championship. That too could be the case. But I think that there are a lot of question marks or unknowns with this Texas team this far out from the game. They have more question marks than I think Ohio State does right now. And that's where I get my concern from.
Jerry?
Yeah, I'm definitely not ready yet. I'm still thinking about this. Look, Ohio State is a favorite coming in this game for a reason. They're playing the best offensive football of anybody left in this college football playoff. They have the most explosivity as a team. They have the best talent on offense of anybody. Because the one thing it's true in all of sports. We talked about it last night in basketball. You have to be good on defense. And these are 2 really good teams. great defenses don't win a national championship anymore. You have to be able to score the football, because when talent becomes neutralized and you have a really good defense and they have a really good defense, somebody's going to score on that really good defense. No different any sport you look at. Just move it down the line. Basketball, the average just points scored for SEC in the SEC openers for teams was 87.5 points. You have to score the ball against good defensive teams. So Ohio State's playing the best offensive football right now, and I think they have the best toys for an offensive coordinator, play caller. Chip Kelly has. But the thing you wonder about with this game from Ohio State perspective, I think they're playing the best football offensively left, is defensively, have they played a team that can present the same problems that Texas can? That is what's going to have to be played out in this game for me, because if Texas pass pros for Quinn, if they give Quinn time in this game, Texas will score points. I think somebody's going to have to score 30, 31 to win it. That's what my thought is right now.
Woo!
I don't think this is going to be a low-scoring game. Too many weapons.
I haven't picked against 13-2 Texas all year, actually, in season. Prior to the year, I said 10-2, right? But I haven't picked against Texas all year in season. I'm not starting now, so I'll just give you a little hint of where I'm thinking. All right, that's going to do it. You guys, I just noticed in the chat, I've been reading them. I haven't been able to read everything in the chat today, but it's cold out there. No matter where you're at, I don't know of anybody that's actually warm today based on what y'all are talking about. I'm reading 4 degrees in Missouri today. Goodness gracious. All right, everybody stay warm. Get ready for a big week of football ahead, because that's what's coming. We'll also be checking in on some recruiting news and notes, seeing if Texas is still in on Noah Thomas, the wide receiver out of Texas A&M. He's looking at Georgia and Miami as well as Texas. We'll see where the Longhorns go there, as well as other news and notes over at ontexasfootball.com. Make sure you come over and hang out with us there, because we're not always online. Also, there are some defensive players and media availability offensive player media availability going in later today as well. CJ will be there for that for you guys. All right, for CJ and Jerry Hamilton, also our producer, Matt Hudson, and all of you, thank you all for watching On Texas Football. Get well soon. Blake Monroe will hopefully see you guys tomorrow here, same time, same place, Coffee and Football. Hook 'em.